It sounds dramatic to say, especially for someone who just sold their company for $54 million.
Yeah.
But it felt like shackles on my heart, being like, you just sold your freedom.
Garrett G and I have quite a bit in common. We both founded companies that became incredibly successful, and then we sold them for life-altering amounts of money. But that's where our paths diverge.
As you achieve more money and more fame, you should become happier and happier and happier. But there's a natural bell curve that exists in the universe, and it's different for everyone.
I mean, I'm the poster child of that, right? I mean, someone called me for $600 million, and then several years later, I'm at a mental hospital. Squirreling their money away, Garrett and his family set off to see the world, sharing their journey on social media as the Bucket List Family. They've amassed millions of followers and subscribers. But Garrett's relationship with social media will surprise you.
I feel like nobody on this planet has benefited more from social media than me. Like, I know exactly how much goodness it can bring into your life. And so I think people would be surprised to hear that my default answer is no. Like, no social media, it's a bad thing. It's default terrible. Like, it's just not healthy for the human soul.
He's gone viral for the wrong reasons, when he's been misinterpreted or criticized. What happened? Why did you get so much hate on this?
Great question. All right, let's clear the air on that one. So,
Garrett G, thanks for being here.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thanks for having me and having me here at your beautiful home.
Oh, man. This is my favorite thing is when I get to have a guest come to the ranch.
I can see why. Wow.
It's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's so fun and it's inspiring.
I just won't do like podcasts remotely. It just is like that disconnect.
Yeah.
So being able to do it in person is so special. But then you leveled up where it's like not just being here in person, but like being welcomed into your world and your home and your experience, all of it. Well, super cool.
Thank you so much. It was fun earlier that I got to give you and Jess the morning water because, it's like I'm such an entrepreneur and I love getting to share things that I'm working on with my friends. And, it's like so early days. And so it's really fun like this month getting to do that with everyone that's coming on and getting their feelings and then checking in with them 30 days later and see how they're feeling. So it's cool.
I'm all in on it. It's great.
Hey, I love that you loved it so much. Okay, so we had not met in person until last August, right?
Yep.
And we had met on Instagram like a decade ago. You guys were traveling the world.
Mm-hmm.
I was building Toms. And then I guess it was, early August, you sent me a DM about one of the posts maybe I'd made about my mental health or something, or
it was
surf
you
trip.
had said something along the lines of you're struggling with your mental health and that surf had been like a pivotal thing in that. So I just chimed in and said, hey, super happy for you. Surf has been very instrumental for me as well.
That's right. And then I took that and I was like, well, this message came at the perfect time because one of my friends had just had to cancel his spot on this epic surf trip. It's so funny. We were actually calling it the Bucket List Maldives surf trip. That's what it said on the invite when I sent it out. And Graham, he couldn't go in the last minute. And so I just replied and I said, you want to go to the Maldives?
I thought that was something like you do often, like, oh, just invite random people. And I mean, I say yes to random things often.
Yes.
So it wasn't like that out of the ordinary for me to go with like random people I'd never met before on this surf trip. But I thought that was like the usual for you as well.
But no, it was an absolute first. And like all my other friends who were on the trip were like, so who is this Garrett guy and how do you know him? And I told him all about you and I sent him your link and some of the videos, some amazing,
Do you remember how you showed up a day late to the trip? You had an injury.
Oh yeah,
that's
right.
And had to get like an MRI. And so I met all of your friends before I even met you. And every single one of them was like, so how do you know Blake? And I was like, I don't. I've never met him. Like,
so funny.
I was like complete imposter on this trip at first. And then, I mean, you and all the friends were so great and welcomed me in. And then when we got out on that big surf out in the Maldives, and then I felt like an imposter again because you guys were all such good surfers. And no, I'm telling you, like that was out of my league. Just that big size of waves. I hadn't experienced it before, especially on that like shallow, sharp reef.
Yeah.
And so I was quite terrified out there and just the peer pressure like got me through it. And it ended up being one of the best experiences of my life.
It's interesting because like oftentimes it is, we say peer pressure, like it is that kind of stoke that happens in surf when you're with other guys and they're maybe a little above your level. I think that's all the steps up in my surfing or in pretty much any parts of my life is when I've been with someone who's just a little bit better, a little bit more confident.
I think that's what I love about surfing is because I got started during like 2020 basically.
Yeah. And you're an incredible surfer for just starting in 2020. It's amazing.
It just felt good to be like really bad at something, as weird as that sounds. Like it felt like healthy. Like how often do people, like adults, do something that is scary for them and difficult for, like kids do that all the time.
Yeah.
And that's why kids like progress so much. And I think that's why kids have a lot of joy in their life because I think that's like an important factor to joy. And then adults just kind of like ease their way into their comfort zone and then like stop trying hard things. And surf for me, I mean, it's still so hard, so scary, and I love it.
When we were on the surf trip, you told me your entrepreneurial story.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, wow, that was one. And I remember saying to you, like, you have to come on the podcast because I have a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of founders that listen to this and watch this. You have to come on and tell the story of Scan and specifically of selling it and how you stayed so true to your values through that process.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Okay. So I'm trying to think of where to start. It's quite the roller coaster.
It's a great one. Take us on it.
Scan was my company. It was an iPhone app that would scan QR codes and barcodes.
Yep.
And it was a very simplistic product, but it had just boomed. We went on the TV show Shark Tank. We had raised money from Google Ventures. We had over 100 million downloads. Like things were going really well for us. And then we received an email from the CEO of Snapchat offering, well, honestly, not offering anything. The email just said, "I love what you've built. Well done." That was it.
Okay.
But you know as well as I do, like CEOs of that size of company, they're not just sending emails to give compliments.
That's the beginning of the process.
Exactly. Yeah. So I showed it to my wife. I verified that was a proper email. And I was like, okay, well, this is going to be something big. And so I respond to him right away. And also I would say with people of that level of success, like short attention spans and they like to move quickly.
Yeah.
And so I responded responded to him right away and said, "Thank you for the compliment. I would love to like meet you someday." That's how I said. And he goes, "Well, let me know the next time you're in LA." And even though I was living in Utah, still going to college, I lied to him and said, "I'm going to be in LA this week. Like, let's get lunch."
Love
and
that.
Then as soon as he responded, he's like, "How about Tuesday?" I was like, "Perfect." And I bought a flight for the very next day. And so when we went and we met, it was like an hour-long walk along the beach there in Venice where their offices were, Snapchat. And at the end of this hour-long conversation, he pulls me into his office and waves over a lawyer. The lawyer comes over and straight up says, like, "Have you guys agreed on a price?" And we hadn't like talked acquisition yet. And I was like, oh shoot, like this was his intention all along, clearly.
Yeah.
But the conversation hadn't gone there. And so he kind of like slows down his lawyer and is like, "Oh, we're still chatting. But," and then he asked me, "Would you ever want to sell your company?" And I said to him, I was like, the answer was yes. Like in my mind, my heart, the answer was absolutely yes. But I knew that's not what, you necessarily want to say or should say.
Yeah.
So I told him, "You know what? No, I never planned on selling my business. I want to build this thing for it to last forever. But if I ever did sell my business, I would want it to be to someone like you."
Great.
That was basically the second lie I told him because the truth was I, had built this business wanting to sell it. And just right then and there, he looks at me and is like, "How about $40 million? And I can remember very clearly like what it felt like for him to say those words because when me and my buddies in school created this app, there was 3 of us.
Yeah.
And we had written on a piece of paper that we wanted to someday get 1 million downloads and make $5,000. Like that was the goal.
Wow.
And even at that stage, had he asked me first, "How much do you want to sell your business for?" I knew in my mind, for me to pocket $1 million, pay back investors and my co-founders, I need to sell this for at least 12 million. So that was my goal, was 12 million. If you would have asked me like my lofty dream, I would have maybe said like, it's crazy, but maybe 20 million. Yeah. So for him to come out the gate and just say 40 million, like I had to definitely like poker face and like calm my soul and be like, all right, like let's start to have this conversation. And that's how it left. I told him, I'm like, let me talk to my team and I'll get back to you. And he's like, that's fine. I want to have this done by the weekend though, so be quick. And that was on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And so I leave the offices, And I call our lawyer and he's like, wonderful, I'm going to put you in touch with the acquisitions lawyer. And that acquisitions lawyer calls me right away. Like, I'm at the airport now about to board my flight.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, congratulations. And I was like, well, the deal's not done yet. And he's like, believe me, I've done enough of these, like, congratulations. But it's going to be very important that you listen carefully to what you need to do next.
Oh, wow.
And he said, you need to call him back and say, you checked your cap table, you talked with your board, and 40 isn't enough. You're going to need to do 50. And I stopped the lawyer and I was like, nah, 40 is great. Like, I'm stoked.
Let's not, I mean, bird in hand, better than one in the bush, right?
Yeah, let's not ruin this deal. Let's be clear. I'm very grateful for 40. Like, let's call it. And he goes, Garrett, have you done very many of these? And I was like, no, never. And he's like, this is all that I do. There's no way that he started with his highest offer.
Yeah.
Trust me, go back to him and say this.
Yeah.
And I even
20%.
said, I was like, can you call him? You know, like, this is what you do. And he goes,
you're like me.
look, this is the first of many like difficult conversations you're going to have. Like, call him back.
Yeah.
So I call Evan Spiegel of Snapchat back and said exactly what he told me. Sorry, thanks for the offer. Can't do less than 50. And Evan says, well, that's unfortunate. Thanks for your time anyways. Bye. And hangs up on me. And I was
whoa.
Like the feeling in my heart when that happened.
This is the second time I've heard this story and my stomach still kind of hurts right now.
Oh, I was like, I just muffed this deal so hard. So I called back my lawyer and I was like, I was like, I told you 40 was enough. You had to be greedy. Like 40 was enough. Oh gosh, this story stresses me out.
Yeah.
So he goes, look, it's okay. This is part of the deal. He's going to call you back. And if he doesn't call you back, we'll game plan, but he'll call you back. And I'm like, I'm getting on a plane. I take off in 15 minutes. And he's like, all right, call me when you land. Kid you not, in that 15 minutes is probably 5 minutes later. And sure enough, Evan calls me back and says, hey, I don't know if we can do 50, but let's talk. And I was like, absolutely. And he's like, okay, call me when you land. And thus began like 3 days of just endless negotiations. Mind you, I am in college. My wife's pregnant, 9 months pregnant with our second child, and I'm playing college soccer.
Okay.
So I can't remember, but I'd basically lie to the lawyers being like, you know what I would say? I would say, I got to go to my wife's doctor's appointment. We're about to have a baby.
Yeah, sure.
Because they didn't want to hear, hey, thanks for this like $40 million
I'm playing soccer.
I got to go to practice. They didn't want to hear that.
Yeah.
So I would go to practice, and then the moment practice was over, I'd sprint home and get back on these phone calls. And it was like that just for that entirety of that week. And then I remember I'm with 2 of my teammates at Walmart, like getting groceries and lunch. And Evan calls me. And at this point, the negotiations had gotten to 44 million. And on this phone call, he's like, okay, so as of now, the deal is $44 million and you get to finish your senior season of soccer. And then you'll come join me at Snapchat about 3 months from now. And I was like, yep, sounding good. Everything's feeling good. And he goes, I don't want to wait that long. I want you to come join me next week. If you quit soccer, forego your senior season, I'll give you 10 million more cash. So it'll be a total price of $54 million.
Oh my gosh.
And when he told me that,
I mean, like I think of how much professional athletes get paid a game. And I'm always like, wow, if that person makes 10 million a year and they play professional football, that's like $1 million a game. I mean, that's kind of the situation. I mean, I don't know how many games you have in soccer, but $10 million for a season.
Well, it was...
And you're a college soccer player, and you've been doing it for 3 years. So what happened?
I remember how it felt, because when he said that, I literally felt this like weight on my heart of like what it would feel like to accept that offer. And it was very clear in my mind, the decision that I wanted to make.
Yeah.
And so I just spoke from the heart and I said, thank you for your offer, but no thank you. Let's keep the price at 44 million. I'm going to go finish my senior season of soccer. I'll see you in 3 months. And he said, okay. And we hang up. And as soon as I hung up with him, I'm like feeling good. I call my co-founder, my good friend, and I was like, hey, you're not going to believe this offer that just came in. Evan just offered us 10 million more if I were to quit soccer. And like all the flowers and blessings to my friend who understands like me and how my mind works. Yeah. He understands like, I don't make decisions based on money. There's something more valuable to me. And so he didn't like get mad at me or even question my motives, but rather he just like basically painted the big picture and was like, Garrett, I get where your heart is at, but you need to understand like that $10 million isn't just for you. Yeah. There's a lot of us involved. Sure. And as soon as he said that, I felt so bad. I was like, oh my gosh, I've messed up. Like I was apologizing. I said, I'm sorry. I realize what I've done. I'll fix it. So then I call back Evan And I yet told him another. I feel like there's a lot of lies in these stories, but I feel like the
For
message
someone who has so much
underneath
integrity
is like
yeah.
there's the intention of why I was saying what I was saying. And once again, I said to Evan, I said, hey, as soon as I hung up, I felt too much excitement to come join you at Snapchat. If that offer's still on the table, I'll quit soccer.
Yeah.
And that's sealed the deal at $54 million. And he's like, deal. So that's when the deal was set in stone, solidified the sale, sold it for $54 million. But the crazy like plot twist to all of this was, if you would have asked me at that moment, like, how long do you think you're going to work at Snapchat? I'm like, I don't know. It's just a new adventure. Like, I'm in it. Like maybe 2 years, maybe 5 years. Like that would have been my answer, like 2 to 5 years. I remember day one of orientation when they sat me down and explained how like vacation days work and time off. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I can't go on vacation whenever I want. Like someone limiting my freedom was like
big
new
problem
to me. So, and then it was also really interesting. I had never worked for somebody else like that.
Okay.
And how quickly I went from just like feeling so confident, so free, and my opinion, when I would explain my confidence, like my opinion was solely based on like me and what I thought about myself.
And what you could do.
And I think that's like a really healthy place to be because then outsiders can't determine your self-worth and your value.
Totally.
How quickly I started to not live for myself, but live to impress my boss, live to impress Evan. I cared so much what he thought about me, my work, my value, all that. And I hated that. Yeah. And it just started to like seep into my being like poison. And I knew I had to change and get out. And so I had been there all of 3 months and I just knew like, I need to quit. So it was the very next day that I went and I quit. And Evan was very understanding. He was really cool. I really do like appreciate my entire time with him. I learned a lot from him and really look up to him. It's just, and he had said it himself. He's like, I knew when I met you, it was a long shot to get you to like work within the organization. Yeah, exactly. And he's like, so keep in touch if you want to come back. We've got a spot for you, but like good luck onward. And that very next Sunday, I go to church in California. And my old soccer coach is at that church.
Oh, wow. From BYU?
Yeah, that I had quit. I literally had just like quit like 3 months prior, go to church. And he's like, oh my gosh, like coincidentally. And he's like, how's everything going? And I was like, I actually just quit. And he's like, well, almost like as a joke, he's like, well, if you come back to Utah, you can join the soccer team. Season starts next week.
Oh my God.
I was like, wait a minute. So I remember going back home and telling my wife, Jessica,
I have goosebumps.
Like,
this is the best.
Like, wait. I might be able to, what's the phrase? Like, have my cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, everything had aligned except I didn't have the blessing of my wife. She's like, look, I don't want to go back. It feels like a step backwards. Don't want to go back to Utah. Don't want to go back to college. Like, it just feels like a step backwards in life. And I just pleaded with her and I was like, look, you let me do this and I'll let you choose whatever you want to do, like for the next chapter of our lives. And she's like, all right, deal. And so got to go back, play my senior season of soccer, just absolutely epic.
I love it.
And then that's when sparked Bucket List Family Travels because I played my senior season of soccer. And at the end of that, I was like, all right, promise is a promise. Like, Jessica, what do you want to do next with our lives? And she's like, I think I want to do a little bit of traveling.
Oh, a little bit of traveling.
Don't say that to an entrepreneur, extremist, a little bit of traveling. So that's how Bucket List got started.
Hello, everyone. I decided not to take advertisers for this first season of No Magic Pill. Instead, I want to use a break to talk about a few things that have had a huge impact on my mental wellness journey. The first thing I spoke about in my episode with Michael Pollan. It's an AI therapy app called Sonia. Now, I was super skeptical when I first heard about this, but I met the founders at a mental health conference. They encouraged me to try it. They said it was HIPAA compliant, totally secure. I've been using it for 6 months now. I still have my therapist, but I don't know about you, but like at 4 a.m. when I wake up with a ton of anxiety, or I'm up late at night ruminating about something I wish I hadn't said, like my therapist isn't available at those times of day. So that's when I go with Sonia, and it has had such a huge impact on my mental health. So the company just launched, it's in the Apple App Store, and they let you try it free for a couple of weeks. So whether you have a therapist or not, it can be so helpful. I've told all my friends about this. My dad's using it, my sister-in-law, and I'm even using it like a life coach as well as a therapist. Like I tell it like, hey, send me a text on Mondays and Wednesdays and make sure that I'm actually in the gym. So I want to show a real short clip of me actually using Sonia so you can get a feel for it.
I'm here. What's on your mind right now?
Oh, I'm just feeling a little stressed about things right now because I feel like I've got so much going on and I really don't know how to prioritize it.
When everything stacks up at once, it can blur what actually matters and make that old not enough story get louder. Let's slow this down by picking one thread to start with, what feels most pressing in this moment. The important reframe is this: the projects did not cure the depression. They arrived because you healed. And when you overwork to prevent relapse, you actually undermine the things that keep you well, like sleep, presence, movement, and connection. When that edge shows up, it is a signal to reduce load and restore choice, not to push harder.
You realize after you sold your company for 54 million that you were now rich in money, but you wanted to make sure that you would be rich in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, was it you and your co-founder like made a list?
It was that same co-founder. He and I got together because honestly, it would almost be treated like a case study because there were 3 of us co-founders and we all got the exact same amount of money.
Yeah.
And I remember, even though I had started the company and worked on it for like 6+ months and then brought them on board.
Yeah.
Again, we just thought this was going to be a small college project, so we split it evenly.
Yeah.
And I remember somebody asking me like, hey, you didn't know this was going to be as big as it ended up. Do you have regret? And I was like, what do you mean regret? And they're regret
with
that
how
you
much
gave so
equity
much
I
to your
gave to all of my
co-founders.
employees.
And I said to him, I was like, look, I just made more money than I would have ever imagined. I'd have to be a very sick person or just really upset with myself if I was disappointed or sad at how much money my like friends also got out of this deal because it was life-changing for all of us.
Totally.
But it was a cool case study because you take 3 young people with 3 very different like mindsets and personalities and give them at the same age and same stage of life, where I think we all had 2 kids at this point, and give them the exact same amount of money, the exact same amount of life-changing money.
Sure.
And one of them just kind of like settled down and lived a very moderate life because that's who he is. And it had even been like, there's a story where the priest or the bishop in his church had reached out to him and being like, hey, people have noticed you've been out of work for a while, so we wanted to like help you with groceries. And he was like, oh, I'm good. I just live very simple and like moderate, you know? And then my other co-founder, I mean, he's just so brilliant and tech savvy, but he's a risk taker and a gambler and just such an entrepreneur that he went deep into crypto.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we would joke like, hey, you're either going to be 10 times wealthier than me,
or you're
going to be living on my couch. Like, let's see how this one pans out. And props to him, he ended up 100 times wealthier than me. And but it was he and I, his name's Kirk, we met, and he's just one of my best friends. And it was like a week after the acquisition happened that he approached me and he's like, all right, Garrett, I've been giving a lot of thought, and I feel like we need to come up with like some rules and standards that we can hold each other to. And the way that he would pose the question was, imagine if there's somebody who has no money, but he has a strong marriage. We now have a lot of money, but if we have a broken marriage, who's wealthier in life? We might be richer, but who's wealthier?
Totally.
And the same could be said for health and this and that. And so we came up with a list that was like the 7 ways that we need to make sure that we are wealthier than a poor man, is what we called it, because we have this huge asset, this huge blessing that's come into our life. Like, shame on us if we let ourselves not be wealthy in like the true sense of the word.
So what were those 7 things?
Oh,
or
goodness.
some of them?
For sure, it was strong marriage.
Yeah.
Then it was strong relationships with everyone else in our circle.
Yeah.
Being a meaningful part of community or whatever community that we're a part of.
Yeah.
It was health, and health was broken down into 3 categories: being spiritual health, mental health, and physical health.
Yeah.
The last one was a really important one to me, a huge lesson in my life since then, and that was freedom.
Freedom. Okay. Got it.
And that was something that he taught me early on, because I thought freedom was just basically more and more money. And I think there's a beautiful like visual like bell curve you could imagine, whereas you get more, and it could be said for a lot of things, especially like money and fame, that as you achieve more money and more fame, you should become happier and happier and happier. But there's a natural bell curve that exists in the universe, and it's different for everyone. Like my appetite,
I mean, I'm the poster child of that, right? I mean, someone called me for $600 million, and then several years later, I'm at a mental hospital.
And it's interesting though, because that number for you, whether it was 600 million or for that number, is different for everyone. And I think it's been an important thing for my wife and I to understand the differences in our bell curve.
Yeah.
Because I would say fame is an interesting one.
Yeah.
I think maybe we could blame it on the Filipino in me, but I think I have a large appetite for fame, and my wife's is like much lower.
Okay.
So if we're going to continue to grow like on social media and this and that, we just need to be very mindful of like, even if it's making me more and more happy, I got to be aware of like where she's at on her scale.
Totally.
And once it starts to bend for her, I got to be wise enough to like halt on mine.
Totally.
And the same goes for money and all of that.
Wow. I love that. I mean, I think having those values is so key. And I love how those values plus your promise to your wife led to the creation of the Bucket List family. And when I think about values and like how are we guided in life, you know, earlier today I got to show you and Jess the quote in my office, you know, the Chateaubriand quote. And that quote has really been a guide for me. And I'll read just a little excerpt from it, not the whole quote, but it goes, "A master in the art of living draws no sharp distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his education and his recreation. He hardly knows which is which." And I feel like as I've gotten to know you, as I've observed your, you know, adventures, it really seems like that quote really epitomizes the way that you guys have lived your life. Like do you see a distinction between your work and your play?
For sure, it's probably something I'm most proud of in life and I would try to like instill this in my kids. It's insanely hard to accomplish that.
Yeah.
To make your work your hobby and your hobby your work and your passion and
let
all that.
everyone else try to figure out what you're doing.
And blur all of those lines. I'd say the thing that it takes a lot of courage, because to chase your passion is like the scary thing. To me, it kind of feels like common sense of like, wait, so you can either try to make it in like the corporate world and just working up the ladder, and you might fail anyways, and you're going to hate your life along the way. So it feels like maybe a win, but pretty lose-lose situation. Whereas if you're chasing your passion to the fullest, definitely you might fail. But like, what a win-win situation, because if you do fail, at least you like pursued your life, like doing what you love. So to me, it sounds pretty obviously, but it does, regardless, take a lot of courage. But the most I would just say, like, if I were trying to teach my kids how to accomplish this and achieve this level of freedom, it's just an insane amount of hard work.
Yeah. It's funny. I just realized I didn't share this when I showed you the quote, but the other reason why that quote's really interesting is when I posted that quote on Instagram, it's the only time a video of mine's ever gone viral.
All right.
As a guy who every video goes viral for you. I mean, you post a video of our surf trip and 1 million people watch it. But yeah, it was so random. The other day I posted it, and normally I get like, I don't know, 10, 12,000 views, and I think it's up to 600,000 views just on that quote.
There's just a lot of like beautiful truth. And I think that should be like the goal for everyone, right? In a perfect world, like everyone gets to spend their lives doing, you know, what they're most passionate about.
Yeah. Well, okay, so speaking of things going viral on social media, one of the reasons I was really excited to have you on is I'm trying to understand my relationship to social media. You know, for 3 years when I was really depressed, I did not post one thing on Instagram because I was ashamed. I really just felt like, what am I going to say? I can't be honest. Because here I am, I have all this money, I have these healthy kids, like, and I'm going to talk about my mental health. Back then, I thought that I was ashamed of my mental health. And so I didn't post anything. And then once I started feeling better, I felt this like deep responsibility to share with other people, because I realized, gosh, if I had found someone's Instagram account and they were honest about what they were going through, that would have helped me a lot. So now I am doing social media and I'm having fun with it, but also I find that sometimes it takes me away from being present in the moment. So here I have the Bucket List family dad. So, you know, how do you navigate staying present with your family while also making continuous content with them in it?
Great question. I do remember when we first started, when my wife said, let's do a little bit of traveling, my entrepreneurial mind went to like, okay, what do I do? Like, I'm not going to go on vacation. That's just not my style. Like, I just love creating. So that's when we came up with the name, The Bucket List Family, and I started a YouTube channel and Instagram. But I can truly say in 2015, like the word influencer didn't exist.
Yeah.
And so my motive with it was to create a family journal. Like that was it at its basis. I will admit and say I had the definite foresight to think like, this is where I think social media is going. And rather than just going and traveling and paying for these like expensive experiences and vacations, let me see if I can start to reach out to airlines and resorts. So I was like influencing before it even
you were getting your
existed.
life sponsored in a sense.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, for about a year of me hitting up brands, they would be like, nah, like that's not a thing. Like I would try to teach them like, hey, why don't we do this? I get a lot of exposure. You pay for marketing, like market through me and this and whatever. And we just got shut down for like a year total. And then slowly as it became a thing, brands would start to say yes. Like they wouldn't even host us for free. They would just give us a discount, and then they would host us for free. And then over time evolved, then they would start to pay us to do it. And so my wife and I, we had agreed that we would take the money from the acquisition and we would set it aside and put it in like safe savings and investments. And if we were going to travel, we would sell everything, which was did a yard sale and sold 2 cars that got us $43,000. And from that, we would travel for as long as that lasted. So she had budgeted and planned about 6 months of a little bit of travel. And for me, I took it as a personal challenge because I was loving it. I was loving the travel, but most of all, I was loving the time with my wife and kids.
Yeah, and
that,
freedom.
as a dad, that meant everything to me. And when I was building my app, I was spending way too much time at the office. So I had seen the other side of a working dad that doesn't see a lot of his kids. And I knew in this new chapter of my life, like what I wanted to do different. And that was be present and spend time with my wife and kids. And so we were just documenting it as like family home videos, while at the same time, my entrepreneurial mind was like, how do we do this? And it was pretty cool to see like the $43 million like running out, and then start to slow down as we got like
the 43,000.
Yeah, sorry, the $43,000.
Yeah, I said 43 million. I was like, I hope it wasn't right now. That's a different
exactly.
channel. I haven't seen that one.
As the $43,000 continued to run out, as these brands started to like give us discounts or host us, the bleed slowed. And then as we started making money and getting paid, then it ramped up. And I'll say like we turned Bucket List into a very successful business.
Totally.
Based on that, never touching the acquisition money.
That's amazing.
So as an entrepreneur, that made me super proud. But like I said, the thing looking back now to answer your question is the thing that has meant most to me is like, as a dad, I would argue to say like, no dad in history has ever been able to spend as much time with their kids, doing these like exceptional experiences and creating these memories quite like I have. It's the best job ever. So going back to the quote, it's like, is it a job? Technically, like it's what supports our family, but it just feels like the dream situation. One of the stops during our travels was we were starting to figure out like, should we settle down and have a home base? For like 3 years, we were straight vagabond, no home, traveled to 50 countries. And then my daughter wanted to like go experience regular school about kindergarten age. Mm-hmm. So we started to talk about like, where do we want to live and settle down? And so we had gone and checked out Portland, Oregon. Mm-hmm. And my wife really loved it. My daughter went to school for a bit and she was loving it. And then I went and I applied it for a job at Nike, and I was like, like new experience, let's go for it, whatever. And I got the job, and I was going to be like an entrepreneur in residence, just building new tech within Nike. Cool. And the final interview with the head honcho, and he is like, well, we think you're great, like let's make this happen. And then he asked me, what kind of salary do you need to make this a reality? And as a joke, I said to him, you just need to pay me more that's better than traveling the world with my family for free. And I said that as a joke, but as I like heard the words come out of my own mouth, I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm getting paid to travel the world with my family. Why would I take this job? And the next day I sent him an email and I'm like, I'm sorry, I declined the offer and I didn't take the job.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes you have to say things out loud, and sometimes you have to be faced with a hard decision before you realize what's in front of you.
Totally.
I think that's, for people who are listening and watching, like really listen to this, because I've learned this lesson several times in my life where I am like making plans. Like you're moving to Portland, your kid's in school, you're getting the job, like you're fully committed to something. And it's not until the moment you have to sign on the dotted line where you're like, no, this is not right. It's so interesting. I mean, I would love to do a whole other podcast with someone who can help us with gut instincts and understand the microbiome and the connection to the heart and all these things, because I can just think of several times in my life where I've gotten to that final. I'm actually going through something right now where I have to make a decision. We'll talk about it tonight at dinner. And where it's like it comes to the final moment when you say, you know what, actually the right thing for me is this.
Totally.
And it's often not. And so one of the things
and even
I
just
love,
like, I think that's a helpful thing when you either like say it or pretend like you made the decision, pretty quickly your body will react like,
exactly.
whoa, like
and
that
listen,
is not right.
It's like, there's the body keeps score. There's so many books on this. I mean, No Magic Pill, this podcast is all about mental wellness. And part of mental wellness is learning how to really listen to your body. And oftentimes it's once you have to say it out loud, once you have to feel like you've committed to the decision. And so what I like to tell people is like, if you're really making a hard decision, like make it in your mind a week before you actually have to make it. Tell your friends you've already made it and see how it feels. And if it doesn't feel good, and then you still have budgeted some time to change your mind. And so
good advice.
I think that's really, really important.
For me, it's always helped too, to like the ability to like think, I don't know, the word that comes to my mind is like sincerely.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean like, look at the situation for what it really is. Like, was it about a job between like, do I want to go work for Nike or this? Or like, what was the underlying desire there? And for me, probably like at its core, it just came down to like freedom.
Yeah.
And there's like, which one gives me more freedom, especially with my family? And then it made it an easy decision. Because if you were like salary this, salary that, like that's a difficult decision. But if you can look at the big picture more sincerely and be like sincere with yourself and what you really want out of this, makes the decision way easier.
This year, I met some engineers from Nike who invented a new type of office chair that has not only changed my life, but actually saved my back, especially because I am on about 5 hours of Zoom calls every day. The Moovlab chair has 2 different pivot points under the seat, which keeps your body in continuous micro movements all day. The founders told me it is the equivalent of taking 3,000 steps. And all the lubrication of your joints and the blood flow is why my back no longer hurts, and I can focus on my work so much better. I loved it so much that I actually joined the team as a co-founder. And I will be sending one to every person I know when we launch this fall. If you're interested in learning more or pre-ordering one, we only have 500 in the first run. You can check us out at moovlab.com. And that's spelled Moovlab.com. I decided not to take advertising for the first season of No Magic Pill so I could actually use these moments to talk about something I'm super passionate about. Now, one of those things is my morning routine. And every morning it starts the same way. I drink morning water. I take this packet, I pour it into this bottle, and I drink it. Now, what's in this packet? It has creatine, L-theanine, magnesium, many other supplements, electrolytes, basically all the things that I used to have to take so many supplements for. I mean, my kitchen counter, it looked like a pharmacy. I mean, it had bottles of pills and pills and pills, and half the time I would even forget to take them. So now it's all in this simple formula that my friend Austin created, and I do it every day. And this month, we're giving everyone a special offer. Go to morningwater.co/no magic pill, and when you sign up, you'll get 25% off your first month. I hope you enjoy it as much as I have.
Now, I do want to go back to social media though, because you just talked about how it's been, so positive in your life, and I totally see that. But also, like, what are your concerns? Like, you hear of like child stars, like in terms of movie stars, and your kids have become like child social media stars. And your daughter's now 13, right? You have a teenager. I mean, does she have her own social media account? How are you thinking about that? How are you thinking about the fame that's created through this? Like, because I think there's a lot of parents that are listening to this that either their kids are just getting a phone for the first time, or they're just talking about social media. And I would love for someone who's so ingrained in it to tell me and us listening, like, how do you think about this in terms of when they have had such a positive experience with social media? But we also know there's a dark side to it too.
Totally. And it's interesting how much has changed, because my answer back in 2015 was like, this is a great journaling tool. Everyone should do it. And I was literally taking a photo of each of my kids once a day and posting it so I could like remember them at every single stage. It has evolved into the beast that social media and technology is today. And I have a really strong opinion about it.
Okay, tell me.
Because I feel like nobody on this planet has benefited more from social media than me. Like, I know exactly how much goodness it can bring into your life. And so I think people would be surprised to hear that my default answer is no. Like, no social media, it's a bad thing. It's default terrible. Like, it's just not healthy for the human soul.
Yeah.
And so that's always like my default, is to like start there and then figure out like, okay, if you really want to do it, then figure out a way, like, is it good for you, and how can you do it? Because I think when I say it's not for everyone, I think the really good example is as simple as this. Like, if somebody in your comments like tears you down and you just got people like trolling you, does that affect you at all? Does it affect you for 10 minutes? Does it affect you for a week? Like, it's different for everyone. And you just got to know, like, that's going to be a part of it. And what are you willing to like give up? Or is it going to ruin your whole weekend or whatever?
Yeah.
And for me, like me personally, the worst of it, it might affect me for like 5 minutes.
Yeah. But you have such a strong sense of self. And I think that has been forged through all these amazing experiences in your life. But for a 13-year-old, for your daughter.
Oh yeah, see, and I would never want her to face that.
Yeah.
And so the default with our own kids is the answer is no, and we'll probably address it like when they turn 16.
Okay.
And at that age, we'll then have a conversation and see, hey, is this right for you? Here's the pros and the cons, and like let them kind of make a decision, but with our strong parental guidance. But it won't even be a question until then. I could probably make the prediction now, just knowing my own kids, that my daughter at 16 probably won't want it, which is probably why she could have it if she did want it, because she would have a very healthy relationship with it.
Yeah.
So if she decided that, I want it and this is how I'm going to use it, I would support her. Whereas thus far, and we'll see, he's got a long ways to go, but my second child, who's currently 11, if he wanted it, I'd say, no, like, this is not for you.
Yeah.
Just knowing how emotional he is.
Totally.
And tied
I
to
mean,
that,
that's
like, it would not be for him.
My 11-year-old son, he has a phone now because his mom and I are divorced, and we need a phone to be able to talk to him. But I absolutely do not think social media is for him because he's so sensitive. He's so, and I just think, it would be crushing if someone said something negative in a comment.
Totally.
And I think most kids, that's why I think we have to be very careful as parents with this, because most kids, that's where more bullying takes place. That's where, my whole journey on enough, and this idea that, I never felt that I was enough, and I didn't have to deal with the comparison to, of social media. But now when I go and talk at high schools or with young students about their, kind of journey on if they feel that they're enough, so much of the lack of feeling enough comes from social media and comparing their friends.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, totally.
And, you brought up the comment about like, if the comments, if a negative comment hurts you, for more than 5 minutes or whatever, then that's probably a good sign that this is a dangerous tool.
Especially because I think, like, if I were to explain like why it only affects me for like, sometimes 5 minutes, it would be a combination of, like you said, being self-confident, like, basing your self-worth on yourself. But the other part of it is just kind of knowing the actual situation. Like if somebody is going to come and try to tear you down, and that's where, for me, that's been the hardest part of like seeing trolls and hatred on social media, is it doesn't affect me how I think about myself, but it does negatively affect me in how I just kind of like see the world. Because when there's that many people just like throwing hate out, you realize like they're the ones that are hurting. And that makes me sad to realize like there's that many people out there that are in such a painful place that like that is their outlet. And that there's no way I refuse to believe that that's like natural human instinct, is just to be like throwing hatred. It always comes from a place of like hate and hurt. So if there's that many people out there hurting, like that, that makes it really sad and difficult to like witness.
Yeah. You experienced this one time, I know of very intensely, with the infamous throwing your son off the cliff. I mean, for those who don't know this
it's a good
story,
example of all of this.
Yeah, it's a very good example. It's probably the best example, at least I know of in your history. Like, what happened? Why did you get so much hate on this? Like, what really happened? I think let's clear the air here.
Great question. All right, let's clear the air on that one. So we were at Lake Powell, very beautiful place in Utah, and I was teaching my kids how to cliff jump. And I've done the same method with all three of my kids. And my kids,
I like that you call it a method. Like this is a man who has a method on teaching their kids to cliff jump.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
For sure. And I'm telling you, like, Talk to anyone who knows my kids. Like they're the most fantastic, phenomenal, brave, like adventurous kids. They're so great. So the method works. Specifically when it came to cliff jumping, it is like if the most dangerous thing someone can do when they're cliff jumping is like hesitate.
Totally.
And like they go to jump and then they hesitate and then
I
they
almost
stop,
did this in Fiji.
and then they slide down the cliff or they don't jump far enough. Like that's when it's the most dangerous.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, funny enough, it's like the most daredevil kids that have confidence are actually the safest.
Yeah.
It's the kid that's being like overly cautious and safe, like usually is the one who breaks an arm.
Yeah.
And so with my kids, I'll like get them to the edge. And if it's their first time, I like let them sit there and like really like soak it in. There's tell me the quote in your gym.
Don't stop trying to skip the struggle.
Yeah. So eventually, like if I'm cliff jumping myself, by the way, I'm terrified of heights.
Yeah.
And if I'm cliff jumping myself, I'll look over the edge, I'll make sure it's safe, and then I'll go chill out. And then when I know it's time for me to jump, I'm like going to that edge and I'm just jumping because I don't want to just soak in like the fear. The first time I go with my kids, I kind of take the opposite approach and I let them sit there and just like just dwell in it and feel it and like get the worst of it. And then if after doing that, if they're still ready to jump on their own and sounding confident, then I'll let them jump. But if they're not, then what I'll do is I'll like hold them, and this is like with their permission. I'll tell them like explain it how it's going to go down, and I'll toss them off the cliff for a few reasons, so that I know that there's no hesitation. I know they get far enough away from the cliff. And it's all from like a safe height. Like if I were to throw them or if they were to belly flop, like they're gonna be safe. It'll hurt them, but they're gonna be perfectly safe. Like I'm never ever gonna like actually try to harm my children.
Sure, of course.
And so we're there in Lake Powell, and I did the exact same thing. We go up, it's a pretty safe distance, and I'm with my 7-year-old, and he was crying in the moment because he wanted to jump on his own, but he was so scared. And he would stand up and he would go and then he would cry. And he was crying because he was like kind of like frustrated with himself and just scared in the moment. And I was just sitting there being patient. Like the clip on Instagram, I don't know, it's a minute long, but it was probably like 30 minutes of me just like patiently waiting for him. And then I told him, I'm like, look, I'm not going to let you jump because you're scared enough that you might hurt yourself. I'm going to toss you. And he's like, okay, go for it. And that sort of trust between a parent and a child, like that's not born overnight. Like that's a whole lifetime of me challenging them and helping them and showing them that like I've got them safe. And so as soon as I said that, he's like, all right, let's do it. And I go and I toss him and he screams because it's a cliff. And then he falls in the water and he came up with a big old smile, and then he probably did it 10 more times on his own. Like the method
Success.
worked
The method worked.
But
so what happened on Instagram?
The internet chose to just clip I shared the process. It was a beautiful video. I was very proud of it. I think it was People Magazine, shame on them, were the first ones to like clip just like the specific part. And then the headline was so gnarly. It was like, influencer dad, which personally I like hate the title influencer. It's like influencer dad chucks like crying child off dangerous cliff. And I kid you not, that story went viral.
Oh my God.
We had like fans DMing us from like Uzbekistan and Switzerland and Korea and Turkey. Like this story was global.
That's a great headline.
But I'm telling you, I like just didn't mind it to the point where I like kind of fed the beast. And I would just like repost it and like kind of chime in here and there just to like stoke the fire, being like, you guys are silly. And I kind of liked it because I knew that there were certain parents out there, and you could go to the comments every time and people would be like, I came to this article expecting to see an influencer chucking his kid violently off a cliff, and they would see a beautiful like father-son moment. And I'm like, I love this. Like, I love what we're sharing around the world. Like, let's go. And so I would poke the bear and stoke the fire.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that story and clearing the air. And, I do think one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up wasn't just because we were talking about social media, but also just like as a dad myself with my 11-year-old and my 8-year-old, like I'm really navigating right now how much to push my kids. And especially if they're kind of hard chargers like we are and, kind of alpha parents, is like, you want your kids to really have these experiences. Like my son is great at basketball, but for some reason right now, he's like really concerned about joining the team. And so I'm kind of having to push him to join the team. And I think that that's one of the things that I'm trying to figure out is like, okay, like where is that boundary around pushing them so much to where they're too uncomfortable versus kind of making them try things. Like I'm even trying to figure out like, how do you even do this with food with my daughter? She doesn't want to eat anything. Like, how do you think about, kind of the trying new things? Because obviously you and your family do a lot of trying new things.
Well, it's funny you bring up food because we made it like a family rule early on, especially with our travels. Like we're not going to like McDonald's or Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
And so we made the rule like you don't need to eat all of it, but you need to try everything at least once. So like try a bite and then you can like push the dish aside, but you like always got to try. And the beautiful thing is you do that enough times and kids start to realize like, oh, actually how many times I've tried something thinking I was going to hate it. And it turns out I love this. And so that kind of bled into a lot of areas of life. And so we do a similar thing where it's like, I think trying something for a season is a good example. There's been a lot of times where our kids just did not want to do it. And by the end of the season, it's like become their life. The tough thing for me as a parent, and I think probably a lot of parents face this, is like I think so highly of my kids. So I just know like their potential in my mind is just like up here. And so I'm trying to push them, not because I have high expectations for them.
It's just because see the potential.
I just think the world of them. But I say that's a struggle for me because I have such high like, love and admiration for them. A lot of times that feels like a lot of pressure. So the challenge for me is always making sure they understand like why I'm pushing them. And it's out of like love and not expectation. And that what I want for them is the experience, not the achievement. Like
they're enough.
Don't go to basketball because like you need to win the championship. Like go to basketball because like what a great experience in life. Like go be a part of a team, have that camaraderie, not because I expect you to go win the championship. Like you might win, you might lose. That's not the important part.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a big part of my enough journey with my kids and just letting them know that, whether they are the top player on the water polo team or they just try it, they're enough either way. Because our culture is so geared towards achievement. And I think as parents, like what we need to do and what I try to do is, really think about like the values. Not the specifics, but like what's the overall values of how we're going to run our family. Like I'll show you when we get done with this interview, right when you walk in our front door. I don't know if you saw it. You saw it.
There's 7 of them.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So when my son, firstborn, was born, I took a paternity leave. And 2 days after, I sat down. I was like, you know what? For every company I've ever started, I've sat down within the first week and wrote a mission statement and core values. And I put it on the wall. And the whole company culture is based on that. Starting a family is no different. Think about it, right? And so, our mission statement is to live courageous lives with grace and moderation. And I really thought a lot about that because I wanted our kids to be courageous, to try new things. I wanted us to have grace when people make mistakes. And I knew we had all these resources because of Tom's, and I wanted to really make sure that there was moderation. And then our values are put family first, be present, give generously, love ourselves, others, and the planet, invest in personal growth, be curious, and make time for play, which is one I think you really like. But, I would say like for people who are listening or watching, like that is probably one of the greatest things I've ever done as a dad. Is by just sitting down and getting really clear, and if your kids are older, I'd say involve them in this. My kid was just born and my other daughter wasn't even born yet. But as the kids have started to get older and now Summit at 11, when he walks in the front door and he looks at that, like I think he's holding me accountable to that.
Oh, totally. For sure.
Like he's holding me accountable to, continuing to give generously. I mean, he has such a big heart. He's like, how can we help these people? How can we help these people? Why don't you help these people? It's great. And, and then like, making time for play. Like, I mean, they definitely, my daughter like wants to be on the trampoline for 6 hours. Dad, time for play. But I really think like, if someone, this is a tip. Sometimes on the podcast, I like to think about, okay, what can someone leave with? And I think you have shown that, really being clear about what your values are has really guided your family and the culture of your family. And then I have found that this exercise has been so helpful for me. And so I'm curious, like sometimes we do our values because we learn them from our family. And so we emulate things that worked really well growing up. Oftentimes, and this is often the case, we do the opposite because something didn't work. Like, what was it like for you growing up? Like, what was your upbringing? Because I don't really know this.
This is a great question. I would say this. There's a long list on both sides of that. Like the list of things that I learned from my parents because my parents were so amazing and did such a good job at them is a very long list. And then unfortunately, there's like an equally long list of things that I think they did very poorly and that I hated about my like upbringing and like were really difficult for me. That I'd be curious. I don't know if I could tell you like off the top of my head which one shaped me more, like the good list or the bad list.
I'm always interested in
a combo of both. I could tell you probably which one drives me more, and it's the negative list, like the things that were difficult.
Well, I mean, that's what this podcast, a lot of this podcast is about, is helping people who are either struggling, stuck, having a hard time. So I would love, so much of your life is about the positivity, but what are some of the things that were difficult that maybe have driven you and have shaped who you become? And also just like, how did you get through those hard times?
So my parents divorced when I was 9 years old, and then my dad remarried.
Okay.
And a woman came into our lives who was just for lack of a better word, like quite evil. And I knew at the time, like I'm in junior high and high school.
Could you tell that at age 9? Or is that looking back?
Honestly, no, I knew at the time, like I hated life and I felt terrible inside and I didn't feel safe in my own home. And I was just like walking on eggshells and just like living life in fear and like hatred. And that, like, I knew that existed. The interesting thing was it wasn't until my oldest child, Dorothy, was born, when I like held her for my first time, immediately I felt this like new type of love that there's almost like it was taught me two things immediately, like lightning bolt to the heart. And that was, this love that you're feeling is the same love between God to you. And then this love is what every parent should have for their child. And in the weirdest way, in that exact moment, I came to the realization of like, I grew up in an abusive household. And
that's often what happens.
The love that I should be having from I would spend like holidays with my mom and have a great relationship with my mom and love her dearly. But the house that I was growing up in was my dad and my stepmom.
Yeah.
And it was my stepmom that, like, it doesn't matter who your parents are, whatever household a child is in, they should be receiving that parental love.
Yeah.
And it was in that moment that I realized, like, not only did I not receive that, but I was in an abusive situation.
Physical or emotional?
Mostly emotional.
Okay.
And honestly, there's times where I wish it would have just been physical and not emotional, because at that age, like what you can do to a child to put them through like nonstop years of emotional abuse, like, I don't know. But the saving grace for me was at that age is also when I met two friends, just two guys in 7th grade. I was that kid sitting alone at lunch and they invited me to sit with them. And that quickly became not just my best friends, but like whether they knew it or not, they were like the angels of my life who saved me in a time where like I didn't want to be alive. I didn't want to be going to school.
And you were in 7th grade when this happened?
Yeah.
I think this goes back to like, we hear a lot as parents that like just how important it is of your kid's friend group.
I think at the age about 7th grade, I've heard a lot of stories since then of as I've like shared sometimes my journey of that is like such a pivotal age for kids.
Yeah.
And I think it's mostly based off of friends.
Yeah.
As parents, you want to think that like you're the number one influence in your kids' lives. I think so often it's the friends.
Yeah. Yeah. It really really is. I mean, Tony Robbins has said multiple times that if you want to understand the trajectory of someone's life, look at the 5 people they spend the most time with. Unfortunately, your stepmom was one of those people. But then also, God, universe, whatever you want to believe, sent these 2 angels and these friends in. And that counteracted some of that, obviously.
A good summary of like the situation was, I remember there was one night that was just so terrible in my house that I ran out of my house, ran away from home and went over to my best friend's house. It was the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And I'm like knocking on his window And I remember his parents like woke up. He let me in. I go in and I literally just like flop down onto his bed and am crying. And his parents come downstairs and they see me. And I don't know, now that I'm a parent, I think there could be a lot of people out there that would be like, hey, troublesome kid from a troublesome house, like stay away from my angel, like stay away from my house. But how much that family welcomed me in, like I owe them a lot because of how much they truly like saved me and saved my life at that age.
Wow. That is...
I don't know. It's been an interesting situation where now, if you were to ask me, like, I feel like there's a lot of people who would say, hey, Garrett, what you should do is like completely forgive your stepmom and just move on because you're wearing more of a burden than you are. And I might be wrong, but this is how I feel. I pretty quickly correct them and be like, no, if you knew how much of a drive, like that pain that lives inside me, like that's my like origin story. That's my like superhero origin story. And I think that's a scenario for a lot of people. When something traumatic happens, you can either take that pain and it's your origin story to become a villain or to become a hero. But like that level of pain and trauma, it's going to change you and you get to choose.
You get to
villain or hero.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of how much I've taken that pain and just used it as like a driving force to try to be a hero in every way possible.
Yeah.
And so I truly, like, I hope I never forget the feelings that I felt, you know, growing up, because I never want my own kids or anyone out there to like feel that level of hatred and pain.
Yeah. I mean, do you still talk to your stepmom?
No, it was a crazy, I just, for the sake of this, I don't know if I've ever shared this. It's just a like.
Oh, we love stuff that's never been shared on No Magic Pill. Here we go.
Get this.
You said the magic words. We're all leaning in.
So I'm now a senior in high school. I've lived with this person for 6 years of like the most crucial, we call them the dark ages.
Yeah.
My dad and I were in Utah and we were going up to Idaho because my cousin was going on a church mission. So we were going to go say goodbye. So we were going to drive up to Idaho, spend the night and come back the next day. So this is going to be like a 12-hour trip.
Okay.
It was going to be me, my little sister, my dad, and my stepmom. And my stepmom, last minute, says, hey, I'm not going to go. You guys go ahead, have a great time.
Okay.
And her saying, go ahead, have a great time.
Yeah.
That's how mean she was. Like the fact that she's like, have a great time. I was like, what's gotten to you? Like, you never say anything nice. Like the fact that you said have a great time.
That's a little weird,
you're
right?
in a weird mood. Okay. Anyways, whatever. We drive up to Idaho. We return home 12 hours later and our house is empty. She had completely taken everything, moved out, like furniture, everything was gone. In 12 hours. It was impressive. In 12 hours,
I mean,
she's gone and I haven't seen her since.
Wow. Well, I mean, that sounds like a blessing.
Honestly.
I'd say take it all.
I remember our family came together that night. Like even my older siblings, I'm one of 6, like had gone off to college and lived in different, like we all came together to be there. And it was, we went around in a circle. My dad's like, I just want each person to go and say like, how are they feeling in the moment? And one by one, each of us kids said, I'm sad for like my dad, this was his second divorce and we just want you to be happy. And then my oldest sister, who's like pretty hardcore and just a boss and says it like it is, she's like, can I just point out, nobody is sad that she's gone. Everyone is sad because for our dad.
Yeah.
And she's like, this is a beautiful thing. This is a good thing for our family.
That's amazing. Well, during that time, you talk about these 2 guys that you met in 7th grade. Are those guys still in your life?
Yeah. Alex Madsen and Morgan Lyman. And I saw them last week. They were with me in Samoa.
Oh, really?
And I mean, just best friends for life. We were really close.
That's great. Well, it's so important to have those male friendships at all stages of your life. And as we get older and, you know, inevitably we're going to deal with stuff, you know, aging parents, you know, for me, I've been through 2 divorces. Like those guys have been there for me. And I'm so happy to hear what started in 7th grade has continued to blossom into this deep male friendships.
Totally. Yeah. They've been a rock in my life for sure.
That's awesome. Now, there's a lot of people I talk to, mainly guys, but men and women, middle-aged, that feel like they had these great friendships in 7th grade or in college. They come out of college, they start working, they start a family, and those friendships kind of fall by the wayside because there's just other priorities. They got to make money, they got to take their kids to school, they got to keep a good relationship with their wife. You know, what would you say to someone who's listening that's maybe like, man, like I can't find those 7th grade friends anymore. Like I've let those friendships pass and I'm feeling kind of lonely, or I'm feeling a little bit, down, and my kids are getting ready to go to college, and what am I going to do then?
I mean, I think you nailed it on the head, but as soon as you said priorities, it comes down to like what you care about most.
Yeah.
And that's been it for my wife and I, not just like to have strong friendships, but like I want my wife to have her own strong friendships and her
not
own
just
strong
couple
girlfriends.
friends.
Yeah, exactly.
So important.
And then, I mean, for my birthday, she knows, she flies out my 2 friends to come be with me every year in Hawaii, because she knows that's what I want most in life.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's making that a priority. And to anyone watching or listening, I think that is the greatest like medicine, therapy, all the above that you can do, is to have those relationships, because it's not only like the foundation for you that can be like the rock of your life, but I also think there's a very key aspect when it comes to lifelong friends that you were friends with as like children, because you get back together and you become children again. Like when me and my 2 buddies are together, we're goofing off and joking and playing like we're just kids again.
I love it. Well, I'm going to throw out a challenge. I was at a men's retreat a couple years ago when I was kind of having a hard time. And this guy, Andrew Horn, who put it on, put a challenge out. And he said, I want you right now to spend an hour, and I want you to think of 5 friends that you, in your life, that you have maybe kind of drifted a little bit, but you really wish that you had them back in your life in a more meaningful way. Don't text them. Don't call them. Don't send them an email. Send them a video note. So make a video in less than a minute. Tell them why you're thinking of them, why you miss them, and one way that you would like to, rekindle rekindle the relationship.
I love that.
Anyone who's listening, I'd say just even if you do 2 or 3 guys or girls or whoever it is, but do it after the show, and you'll be amazed at the response. When I did it, some of the guys, immediately were like, man, I feel the same way. Like, let's go play golf next week, or let's find a way to go camping. Or let's get our kids together. I mean, I didn't have one person respond with like, "Oh, thanks for the super intimate
random
video."
awkward.
There was no awkwardness at all.
Yeah.
And I really think
great.
I really think it's a great challenge. Like I always try to once again have things that people can take away from the show. And hearing how important this was for you, knowing how important it's been on my journey, especially through the dark times. Just make those videos and see what happens.
I also think you pointed out something really good, where you'd send out that video and then it would lead to like a camping trip or a hangout or getting together. Yeah. I think a lot of people just kind of like wait too much for stuff like that to come along and be invited, when they could be the person to like plan it and set it up.
Yeah.
And like, I'll do this like multiple times a year. I'll put together some sort of experience or trip or something, and then invite a lot of people. And because people are just busy with life, I'll get a lot of no's, but like, the people who know to say yes, because it's always just such a meaningful time together.
But it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be far away.
Totally.
It literally could be you're going camping, or just in nature, especially for men.
Yeah.
I think nature is so important. So I'm really excited to hear from people that do this. And so if you do, send me a message on Instagram and tell me how the experience was and what your responses back were.
I love that. I'll do it as well. As soon as you brought it up, immediately
Think
like
of
multiple names
people.
popped up into my mind that I'm going to do.
Okay, I'm going to do it for a couple too. It's great. Okay. Well, you just speaking of friendships and kind of male bonding, I love that you're literally coming straight from playing a professional soccer match representing Tonga. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Now, you're 39 years old, right? So when I think of a 39-year-old athlete, I think of retirement. I don't think I'm going to start playing professional soccer at age 39. How'd you get to do this, and like what itch are you scratching by doing this at 39?
No, for real, as well said. That's a good way to explain it. It was a definite. I mean, I would argue it's an itch that like every athlete that never went pro lives with.
Yeah.
It all came about because somebody reached out to me on Instagram and said, "Hey, I'm part of a professional soccer team in Tonga, and we just qualified for the first time ever in this OFC tournament where we might qualify for the Club World Cup, and it allows us 3 international players, and we'd like to invite you to be one of them."
Wow.
And I was like, no questions asked, like, yes.
I'm in, yeah.
When really the questions in my mind is like, why are you inviting me? I'm old. I never went pro. You could be inviting most anyone. Like, why are you inviting me? But again, no questions asked. I just said yes. And then once it was like the second conversation, I was like, I actually do have some questions for you, almost like demands. I'm like, I'm in, but if I'm going to do this, I would like to, because I like immediately go to their Instagram page and see like the vibe of this team. And I was like, all right, you guys need new jerseys. I'll sponsor the jerseys if you don't have a sponsor. Like, I'll pay for them. I want to design 3 new kits for you.
Yeah.
And you mentioned 3 international players. If I can pick them, then like I'm in, even though I was in no matter what.
Yeah.
And so I did it. I sponsored new jerseys. We designed 3 new kits for them. And then the player that they let me bring along with me, I invited one of my childhood best friends that we grew up playing together, Morgan Lyman. He and I grew up playing together our entire lives.
Amazing.
And I told him, and they said, oh, amazing. Like, what club did he play for? And I just said, look, he makes me a better man and a better player. If you want me at my finest, you're going to take him. And just like left it at that.
I love it.
Because that's the truth of it. And I mean, props to us. We went into this not knowing like, do our bodies still work? How can we play a whole 90-minute soccer game? Are we going to be the worst ones on this team or the best? Are we going to get any playing time at all? And so it just went into it like completely blind. And he had never been to Tonga before. The tournament took place in Samoa.
It's so cool. Were your kids there? Did they see it?
Yeah. So Jess and the kids all traveled all the way out to Samoa. Our other best friend, Alex Madsen, who I mentioned, he came out with one of his sons, and it just made a whole experience of it. The love and support there was like at an all time. And also there's so much like silliness to the story of like any true professional athlete in their prime could look at me and being like, yeah, keep calling yourself a pro athlete. Like, you got to play in one tournament. What? I get all that. And I'm like, I don't care. Zero shame here, zero pride.
Celebrate the wins.
Love the experience of it. And that's like so much of how I'm living my life is like, just embracing these experiences that come my way. So yeah, I love it. I like rock my own jersey all the time. I'm super proud of it.
It's great. I mean, that's really one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast because, having watched your life on social media from afar and then meeting you in person are exactly everything that I hoped you would be in meeting you. And, and I think today I've been so grateful because, we've talked about some hard stuff. We've talked about, parenting, but I think the overall theme that I find from you that I want people to take away and think about, and it goes back to one of the challenges earlier about the family values, is like really take some time to be intentional about your North Star. Because I feel like whether it was the story of, selling your company, or it's how you think about parenting, or it's, all of these things, it always comes down to, like really a North Star, and I think that life goes by fast. We're all moving. We're all at different stages. And it's easy to have this excuse of like, I'm just in the grind, you hear. Well, you are if you choose to be, you know? And I'm not saying that there aren't tons of pressures in work and different things and life situations, but it doesn't cost any money to grab a journal, which I know you do a lot, grab a pen and write down like, what are the values that are guiding the decisions I'm making? Like we all started with your list of the 7 things on how to be rich in life. And if there's anyone I've met that's rich in life, it's you. And I hope that anyone listening to this can learn from that. And I just want to thank you so much for being on the show. And, also I always say is like, whether it's making the video for your friends, which I hope everyone listening does, because it's going to be so fun to hear the responses, or it's making a family mission statement, like, there's a lot of people that need this message. So please share this episode with someone else. And I just am so grateful that we got to have this conversation. If this episode spoke to you, please share it with a friend, family member, or someone you love. Because No Magic Pill is not just a podcast. It's a resource to help us all live better lives. Hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode, and let us know what you think by leaving a comment. A quick note that this episode is for informational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional regarding any medical questions or concerns you may have.